an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece, episodes 12 and 13. In these episodes, so the pirates are here. They're fine, but I really feel like what we're all here for is definitely these cat brothers. And I cannot wait to describe in detail what they are wearing to you all. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Florian for commissioning this episode. Hello, Florian, if you're out there. Oh yeah, Florian's in the chat. So is Tom, Gabriella, and Kyle. Welcome to all of you. So I just finished watching these two episodes, and this show is just so much fun, y'all. I just am enjoying it so much. I was talking about it with Jamie, because we recorded our final episode of Doctor Who last week due to the fact that I hate it. And we were discussing why there are some things that are super silly that I can still wholeheartedly get behind. And the reason is that those things know that they are silly. And that's why I love them, because they don't try to be another thing. And that is my issue with Doctor Who, is that it wants to be super silly, but it also wants to be like taken seriously and be emotional. And it's just not really good at that tonal shift. And if you're going to like this show, when it's quote emotional, it's also so over the top and so ridiculous that it doesn't feel like they're attempting to it doesn't feel like the humor is undermining it. It feels like the humor is part of it. And so this show just manages to constantly like overtake itself with more silliness than I thought it could hold. And I don't know when I'm going to stop underestimating it in that respect, because it is just it's like people storyboarding crazy shit and just doing it. And how much fun must it have been to work on this show and find out what the fuck you were going to be like putting on screen, you know? And I know that there's like a graphic novel. Owen has actually been reading the manga, and he is really enjoying it. So I know it's not, total surprises, but nevertheless, what a ride so far. So this episode starts out, remember, our crew had just agreed last episode that they were going to help Usopp with defending the island from these pirates. And he is... I really, really like this plotline, you guys. So what they do here is they literally just have our pals super ready with a plan that's like not bad. But the problem is just that they're on the wrong shoreline, which feels like something that would definitely happen, right? This is some shit that I imagine if it were to happen in life. Like, let's say that there was an imminent pirate attack. You saw the ship on the horizon, you're defending your town. But let's say that you're not like some ragtag group of kids. But let's say that you're like somebody who is in charge and meant to be defending your people. What if you did this? You went to just the wrong place for the fight. That shit isn't getting written in a history book, right? Like, nobody's going to admit they fucked up that bad. Unless somebody else wrote it down. But like, in the era we're talking about, the average person isn't going to necessarily be able to read and write, or have the kind of diary that's going to be handed down through the ages and be remembered and transcribed. So I have to imagine some shit like this actually happened. Maybe more than once. And it just didn't get recorded because it's embarrassing. And nobody wanted to fess up to the fact that they just, like, they didn't know where North was, for example. I love the fact that Usopp calls Luffy out on that, because he says to him literally, "You're the one who ran off first with total confidence." So we have, 1, Usopp being in the wrong place with his merry band. 2, they pour oil down to make it slippery. And this causes Zoro to, like, he's, like, hanging on to Nami, who's slipping. And she finds out that the treasure is, like, unguarded on the side that the pirates are going to be on, and flips out and just abandons Zoro. And he struggles pretty much for the whole episode trying to get up the hill. Which, that's the point, is that they found a spot on the shoreline that there's only really one way up. So he can't, like, unless he were to run around the other side of the island, but I don't think the beach, like, extends that whole way. So Zoro's out for a moment. And then Luffy goes where he thinks is north. He says he went to the coldest area. He followed the cold, is basically what his tactic amounted to. So he winds up in the totally wrong place. So it just winds up being Usopp and Nami. And they have this wonderful conversation where they're each trying to get across to the other that they are more afraid than the other is, so that they can each get out of fighting. And I really enjoy how bemused the pirates are, and that they just don't really, like, eventually they do interrupt, but it takes a minute because they're sort of, I feel like, interested in the argument. I think they're kind of like, are we really doing this? Like, how long can this possibly continue? It turns out quite some time. And it's actually a good thing that Usopp and Nami fight, because they hold up the pirates enough that our friends are able to eventually, like, meet up with them before shit really does begin to go left. So by the end of the first of these 2 episodes, Usopp and Nami have, like, been met up with, but no more progress has really been made by that point. We have a lot of, well, we'll get to that. So let's back up and let's talk about Captain Kura. What's the name of this baddie? I've forgotten his name. Kuro. Thank you, Kyle. I was so close. So Captain Kuro, this is the one thing in all of this that I was genuinely like, I don't get it. Captain Kuro just believes that there's no point in continuing this facade, and he's just gonna go ahead and murder the, like, butler type or housekeeper. I don't even know, because, like, I feel like he's meant to be the butler type. So the little lamb man, little satyr type dude, is, I guess, the butler? Really? And Kuro's like a secretary? Regardless, he's walking around. If he had a mustache, he'd be twirling the fuck out of it. And he's, like, monologuing under his breath about his plan. That Usopp certainly knows how to cause trouble. And this dude's up here, like, polishing the chandelier. Like, oh yeah, and he claimed you were a pirate. Isn't that ridiculous? And Kuro's like, yeah, totally ridiculous. So then he sees the present that what's-her-face got for him. Kaya, is that her name? And it's to commemorate his 3 years at the mansion. It's a pair of glasses because yours seem to slip often. I kind of love that they reference that within the show. It's like, it's obviously meant to be sort of a tick for him when he's in this character, but I like the fact that the show decided that they were going to be like, yo, you need new glasses. So he is looking at this present, and honestly, it is sweet. Like, the butler's just, oh, isn't she so thoughtful? And Kuro says, oh, yes, indeed, tomorrow is a day to commemorate. And just as this dude is climbing down off of his ladder, Kuro looks up and he says, it's a crescent moon tonight. Nights like this make my heart race and my blood stir. And he drops the present on the ground and stomps on it. Then we get one of those like face moments where, there's a full second spent on just the butler's expression of shock as he sees that this dude stomped on it. And it's so weird. I've talked before about the expressions on this show and how, like, integral they are to the way they choose to tell the story, and also they're just trying to fill time, as it turns out. But there is something really weird about how an expression of shock looks the same as a smile a lot of the time. Like, there isn't, like, the downturned eyebrows or mouth that makes me feel sadness. And I was sort of willing at first to be like, well, maybe they're just like trying to save on animation. And so they're kind of using similar face like illustrations for the shock and the happy. But then this character, it seems, is dead. So I don't feel like that's actually it, because we really haven't seen enough from him for there to be other illustrations of him that they're trying to like conserve with. So I have to assume that either that is like just the taste of the illustrators, the animators, or maybe that is like an anime thing that even when somebody is upset, they have a weird sort of smile to them. But I find it very off-putting, is all I'm saying. So he stomps on it. And I was genuinely like, what? We doing this? Oh, okay. And dude says, what are you doing to her present? And Kuro says, oh, I'll be accepting a present all right, but it won't be this. It'll be the entire mansion. And tells this dude his whole plan. And then says that there's no more need to continue to act. An accident is going to occur in a few hours anyway. And out of nowhere, this dude suddenly got Edward Scissorhands. And I don't know if it's meant to be that, like, he's just got a glove that's got blades on it. If it's supposed to be that he ate one of the devil fruits that gives him knife hands. Or what? But, like, he's just pulls this out of nowhere. So it feels like it has to be magical. Because there's no way that he's hiding blades that are like, they look like they're about 2 feet long minimum. Those weren't hiding in his pockets. Where'd you put those? So this, attack is actually pretty dope because he slices through the air and we see the silhouette of this dude and all of his blood flying. Now it turns out this guy isn't dead. And I want to mention, I was talking to you all about how weird the whole thing is with this guy being like a goat. I still don't really know what they're doing, but there's a close-up at one point of his collar, and the amount of wool is implied that it goes on beyond the shirt collar down his entire body. But this dude definitely has regular, not human, or not woolly hands. He has regular human hands. Not hooves, which I guess would be the other thing that one might expect. what the fuck? What is up with this guy? Am I to understand that in this show there are just going to be people who are like partially animals? And that's just going to be a thing that pops up? Is this frequent? Or is this guy like sort of a weird outlier? I mean, I haven't seen that. And like, I sort of wondered for a second with the, what are they? The Meow Brothers? If they were going to turn out to be actually cats. But no, it's just like, we will talk about it. But I really want to know what is up with this dude. And later on, they like really give us a moment of seeing a sheep in the paddock chewing grass that looks very much like this dude. And it's just all upsetting. I don't get it. I know it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It doesn't seem to matter. But for myself, I would like to know who thought of this, why they thought of it, what they were doing, and just what. So, anyway, then we go to Kaya. She is asleep in her room. And Kuro comes in, and it's really weird. He just stands over her with these, like, 2 foot long, actually, they look like they're probably more like 3 feet long. These are long-ass blades. He stands over her with these blades poised, like he is about to slice her up. Like he's waiting for her to awaken and look up at him so that he has an excuse. Which, it's just a bizarre thing to do when you need her still. Like, the whole thing, guys. And look, yes, I am going to point out that this silly show is not making sense. It's my job. Just don't come at me. But the whole thing was supposed to be that Django is going to hypnotize her into writing a new will that leaves everything to Kuro, right? But as far as I understand, that has not happened yet. She hasn't met Django, has she? That new will does not yet exist. So why does he even think about killing her already? And why is he outing himself? He, like, goes down to the shore, like, okay, pirates, it's time to attack the house. And I'm like, that didn't really seem to be the point of what you were doing. The whole plan that we heard just doesn't line up with any of his actions at all this episode. And, like, we see the fact that Django's hypnotism does actually work. So as much as that previous plan was a little bit absurd, it seems like it probably would have worked. So instead he just shoots himself in the foot here. And I'm just like, man, you had a pretty good, solid plan there, and you're just ruining it for yourself. What are you doing? Have a little patience, man. Let things unfurl, you know? But no, he just decides he's going to show his hand. It turns out also that he gave, like, all the staff the next couple days off. So Butler Man is the only person remaining in the house. And that's another thing that I find weird is, like, he leaves this dude's body on the floor and just sort of seems to expect that she's going to stay asleep, that he'll be able to come back with all of his pirate friends, and she won't have noticed that there's nobody around. You know, it's just the whole thing doesn't really work out. Sorry, Florian's in the chat says, yeah, this is one of the less thought out stories in the show. Oda will get better. Think of it like Rowling in book 1 of HP. This stuff will get better. Okay. Noted. So yeah, anyway, the whole thing, because like I said, I thought that the plan actually made some sense. I was a little bit, do you know what I thought, guys? And I'm really glad it didn't go this way. When Kaya wakes up next episode, she had like a nightmare that, Usopp was standing over her with his sword and yelling at her for making a fool of him. And I really thought that she was going to wake up and find this dude dead, and for some reason leap to the conclusion that it was Usopp who did it. That, like, her dream had been prophetic. I stand by that I expected that too, because, like, otherwise the inclusion of that dream is sort of a weird choice. There wasn't really a reason to see it other than for us to spend a little bit more time with Kaya. And it's just a real testament to what a nothing character she is, that the only thing the writers could think to do with her was show us her unconscious. Like, they couldn't even give her anything to do. They were just like, she's super passive. How about we literally have her be asleep and that's what you get to see? So the team of dudes down at the pirates down at the ship, they are coming around the other way. As I've mentioned, everybody decides that they're going to take off and they get separated. Luffy realizes he's at the wrong side of the island. I'm in the village now. That's weird. He said north, so I ran in a coldish direction. Meanwhile, poor Usopp is over waiting for this entire crew of weird cat-eared pirates, and he's totally by himself. Let's talk about these cat-eared pirates, you guys. So, I mentioned before about their Jolly Roger being, like, really funny. I stand by it. I like it a lot. They also have a figurehead at the front of their ship that is a cat head, which later Luffy attempts to turn into a deadly weapon. I love that a consistent trait of this show is we have to completely disable Luffy somehow. We gotta do something because he's OP. Let's just be honest. He is. So there has to always be something that happens to him to knock him unconscious or trap him or put him somewhere else so that he can't participate, because otherwise the shit would just be over. And there's later, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. So these dudes are all in this cat theme. And it's just really funny to me because, like, I know how much there's, like, a whole industry around cat stuff in Japan. And I mean that when I say stuff in every way. We've got cat accessories, cat-themed clothing, costumes for cats, TV channels for cats, cat cafes, everything. It's a big deal. And honestly, you guys, a cat cafe, I want to go to one so bad. You know what? I'm Googling it. Cat Cafe Dallas. Is there one? The Casual Cat Cafe, Richland Hills, Texas. 4.7 stars on Google. I have no idea how far Richland Hills is from me, but they have 273 Google reviews. And the photos are all of very adorable cats. So I agree. I will write my own review, 5 stars. I want to go to it. I've always sort of thought of cat cafes as being something that's only in big cities, but evidently not. So I'm going to go. But anyway, so it's really funny to see these dudes who all have like the little cat ears, and they also have dark eye makeup, like cat's eye makeup on. And I just find it so funny because they're basically wearing, like, if you're gonna be a really lazy bitch at Halloween, that's the vibe of what they're wearing. And I just find it really, really funny. It would have been pretty great if they all had little tails too. But, you know, I don't know why. I find these super tough dudes with this look to them, like they maybe have some black garters on. They're maybe, you know, feeling themselves a little bit tonight because they're just trying to get it at the club. I just find it really funny. So, oh my God. And there's a moment, guys, where Usopp says my 100 million guys are going to come and beat the crap out of you. And all of the pirates have to like explain to Django that he's clearly lying because Django's like, oh, 100 million. Oh no. When he says 100 million, my immediate thought is like, why'd you say that? That's no good. But then they like lean into that joke with him believing it. And that was just a stroke of brilliance. I loved that so much. And then it leads to, how dare you trick me? So at this point, this dude comes up behind them, and he was looking at the other ship, namely our friend's ship, and it's full of treasure, and they are beginning to unload it. And they tell the captain, well, the erstwhile captain, that there's like 5 million berries worth of treasure, at least, on this ship. I did appreciate up there that Usopp's immediate reaction is like, what? Why did these guys have 5 million berries worth of shit? And then his immediate next move is like, yeah, take it and then leave. Just don't come up here. I mean, it's worth a try. I'm not mad at him for the attempt. He's trying to save lives here. He's trying to save lives here, Nami. You greedy bitch. Nami is heartless. That bitch is like, I have a standard of living that I am accustomed to, and I will be damned. I will be damned if you let these motherfuckers run away with my cocktail money and my shoe budget just because your fucking backwoods neighbors might die over it. Whoop-de-doo. She is just really heartless. It's really funny, actually. So he tries to be like, take that and then leave. But I'm like, they have it already. It's not like you are holding it in your hands and like, I'll hand this to you if you agree to leave. They already have it way down there where you can't do anything about it. So like, there's no, you don't have any leverage actually, which is exactly pretty much Django's response. It's just like, yeah, we have it. So thanks. But also you didn't give it to us. We just took it, and we are going to also take the rest of the stuff that we want. Also, it should be noted that as this is all happening, Django is very aware of the fact that they are behind schedule. And he keeps worrying over the fact that Kuro is going to be super pissed at all of them. Because that's sort of just his vibe in general. Is this low level... There's first this very malicious glee that he always has, which is a mood. And then it feels like this sort of contempt. Also a mood, if I'm being honest. We all know that I have an issue with that. And I really enjoy that Django is like in charge of this crew, but there's never a real feeling like you have to worry about him. He has his hypnotizing dealie, which as we see later, apparently he can just heal people, which is pretty wild. The problem is that you've got to get people to like stand still and watch. And I just really wanted all of our crew to catch on to the fact that like, you could just distract the pirates so that they can't focus on Django's little swinging medallion thing. And maybe it just wouldn't work. But also, like, how do you distract without putting yourself in harm's way, I guess? But yeah, so Django, it's just, he's sort of the wrangler, but he doesn't actually bring that much to the table beside that one trick of being able to hypnotize in a variety of ways. I will note, too, it doesn't rebound on him in this episode like it did previously, where he was watching the thing himself, and then it affected him and he passed out. He manages to do it properly this time, so it affects the other person or people and not him. So this is when Nami comes up and is just like really disgusted with the fact that he was going to give away all of her shit without even asking. The pirates are beginning to storm up the hill, and they throw a bunch of caltrops down to keep them from, being able to run up. Unfortunately, a bunch of them sort of wound up behind them somehow, which means that they are going to have some trouble when they turn to run away. It's a weird, I don't know how that happened, because we watched them throw the caltrops, and yet there's like more behind them than there are in front of them. Like, literally, it looks like there's more behind them. So then this dude comes up behind Usopp and bashes him in the head with a mallet. It was pretty brutal. Usopp goes flying, and there's like blood coming out of his nose and stuff. It's rough. This dude says, "Do you seriously think you can stop us?" And Nami is just looking down at Usopp, who really, for all intents and purposes, he looks like he's dead. And the man's like, "All right, let's go, boys." And he starts to walk away, and Usopp grabs his ankle. This dude stomps on Usopp's head and is telling him to let go. And Usopp keeps holding on. And honestly, this was some heroic shit. I really enjoyed this. He's like, "Yeah, you bashed my head in, and I'm definitely bleeding, and I'm on the ground, but I am going to hold on to your goddamn ankle and make this really difficult for you." And Nami steps in just as he's like about to get his head chopped off. He fights them with a staff, but it only lasts for like 1 or 2 blows before she is taken off. She's like knocked off her feet, basically. Down at the bottom of the hill, Django is yelling like, "Have you forgotten Kuro's plan? Get going, guys. He's going to kill every one of us, dumbasses." He calls them dumbasses. So these dudes are freshly motivated, and they start really charging here. Depending on where we're looking at all of them from, the number of actual pirates seems to vary. But Usopp keeps trying to grab onto people's ankles, and it's just extremely ineffective, but also extremely heroic. And he has this sort of flash of Kaya and his little kid friends, and is super worried about them all, and it was actually a little bit affecting. "I want to protect my village." So on the ground, as he's like trying to sit up, we suddenly see all of these dudes literally go flying by past his head. And we don't actually see what happened to cause it. I feel like it's pretty safe to assume that that was mostly Luffy. Luffy's got one arm that he's sort of like holding as if it hurts him. And I really want to know what exactly he did to cause it looks like it's like 20 guys. I want to know exactly what he did to send them all flying through the air with the greatest of ease. Is it just a smack? Because I feel like that wouldn't get them airborne the same way, but maybe. But yeah, so Luffy and Zoro are here, finally. And Luffy says, "I'm not satisfied." Then we have everybody sort of yelling at one another over the fact that they wound up in the wrong places. Luffy is yelling at Usopp, Zoro is yelling at Nami, and all of the dudes are collapsed at the bottom of the hill, and the only pirate left standing is Django, who's just like, "What's going on?" Then, up at the top of the hill, Kuro is waiting for his pirate friends to arrive. It seems clearer and clearer that they are behind schedule for some reason. So he decides that he is going to head down to the shore, and he's got a bag with him. Like, it looks like a golf bag. Do we know what's in that bag? Because there was a moment where I thought it was like his weapon, his knife hands. But then I was like, he didn't have that with him when he was in the house, and all of a sudden he had a knife hand. So I don't feel like they've established that he needs to carry that shit around. Is it just money? what's in the bag? So he goes heading down there, and the little kids that are friends with Usopp are watching him. And the thing that sort of gets their attention, why is he walking down to the shore this early in the morning? And that is the end of the episode. And you guys, I found that to be the weirdest stopping off point. I don't know if that's just me, but that being where they decided to cut it felt so abrupt. And I was just like, wait, what? But yeah, that's the end of that episode. So the next one starts off. Probably this has got to be like my least favorite thing about the show. And it's, again, understandable, as you guys have pointed out, that they're honestly trying to fill time. But every episode, they really feel the need to completely reestablish where we were at with the last one. It's the kind of thing that I think I just have to keep in mind that this was something that like aired weekly. So that probably was actually narratively necessary to just like get us back in the mindset that we were in at the end of the last one. But when you're binging them, it just feels like you spend so much time watching him walking to the shore and watching the kids watching him walking to the shore. And it's just a lot of table setting all over again. But anyway, so the next one, I didn't even notice the terrifying duo Meow Ben Brothers versus Zoro. Again, Florian has told me not to read the like episode titles, and I didn't. So the Meow Ben Brothers came as quite a surprise. I'm just saying. Florian says maybe just skip the recap, like the first minute or so. Well, it's not a big enough deal to bother, because then I might actually miss something if I tried to do that. But it is the sort of thing where I'm just like, oh, I know, I just get really impatient. So we have him, the kids decide that they are going to follow him. They eventually have like figured out what's going on. And long story short, they attempt to get up to the big house to warn Kaya, and it is not working out for them. Meanwhile, down at the shoreline, we have this really, really weird series of like little fight scenes. So our friends are still arguing at each other for the fact that they all abandoned one another. Django basically yells at the pirates like, are you fucking serious, guys? These two dudes just took you out. Get up. And he pulls out his medallion and says, watch this ring closely. 1, 2, Django. You guys will grow strong. Your wounds will be completely healed, and you will grow stronger and stronger and stronger. And it works. I really enjoy Nami being like, how ridiculous is that? Meanwhile, evidently nobody is actually watching the medallion except for Luffy. So it doesn't work on anybody else. That is a major handicap of this type of ability, is that you have to do it in such a way that only your guys can see it, which evidently Django just didn't think of, because Luffy winds up being empowered with this same unnatural strength. So this dude literally punches a rock and shears off part of the cliffside with it. That's how strong he gets. I didn't expect this to actually do anything. I thought that this was going to be, you feel like you're strong again. You feel like your wounds have been healed. But actually nothing's changed. It's just in your head, but it still has an effect on you, But yeah, so this makes them a lot more formidable. And I was actually pretty excited about it, because honestly, they did not seem like a match for our guys. So Django yells, go, crush anybody who gets in your way. They all begin sprinting. Oh no. I'm not bored. I'm not bored. I swear, guys. I'm sorry. It's just that it's that time of day. But they begin sprinting. I love how everybody else is like watching them coming, and they're just like, oh shit. But Luffy isn't engaging, and none of them notice right away. Zoro says something like, we'll handle this. Hey, Luffy. And one of the guys runs past Luffy. Luffy doesn't do anything to stop him. And then Zoro looks over and is like, oh shit, because Luffy has the same, like, what's happened to all of these dudes is that their pupils and irises basically go away, and it's just like the sclera of their eyes, and that's all that's left to sort of signal that they're in this rage. So Luffy goes running at these dudes, and he yells, "Gum Gum Gatling," which amounts to, I can make 50 fists at once. I am not totally sure how this works, but it does. Because he just lashes out with one fist. That's it. And then the camera like whirls around and all of these dudes are flat on their back. That is insane. You were completely wrong to think he'd have no effect. These guys are no ordinary brats. That's Django. So they all stand up and are looking at Luffy like, oh shit. Because, you know, he was already Gum Gum guy, but now he's superpowered guy. They're running away from him. But they are a slow runner compared to Luffy because he's in the midst of them, comes running through the crowd at Django, and Django like cowers thinking that Luffy's coming for him. And instead, Luffy goes up to the ship, which when we actually get to see the front of the ship beached, it looks really cool. It's got like a grayish green hull, and then its sides are red with this like gold decor. It's really cool looking. So he comes up and he grasps what amounts to like the prow, I guess. I don't know about ships, y'all. And here comes my favorite joke of these two episodes, which is he grasps it, his arms bulge, he's yanking on it, and then we see the cat head from the prow get a sweat drop on it. Like the cat's head is alive, and it's just like, oh shit. And I found that fucking hilarious. I did genuinely LOL at that point. I just found that shit so funny. That cat's just like, what are you doing? And he yanks the whole damn thing off and then begins to come at them with it. Like he's going to use this giant fucking weapon and just smash all of these dudes. And the way he grabs it and turns and looks at them is so creepy. So he's heading towards them. Now, the fact that he can hold this is astonishing anyway. But it's difficult to balance. So it's not like he's running the way one would normally. And because he's slowed down, Django has time to pull out his medallion again and say, keep your eyes on this, and on the third one, you'll grow sleepy. And that is exactly what happens. And Luffy goes down, and the whole prow comes down with him and crushes him. It looks like it smashes into Django, but I think Django's okay. All the other dudes go down again, but it doesn't seem to do a lot of permanent jam. Yeah, Django, like, rolled off to the side, evidently. So then we go to Kaya, and she woke up from that nightmare, and she goes to see Kuro, and he is not there. And when she goes out into the main part of the house, she finds this dude dead. But is he? The fact that this dude was still alive was so, like I told you guys, I really thought what we were going to do was, oh shit, it must have been Usopp. He was in my dream and he killed this guy, and it turns out Usopp's like, I really thought that's what we were going to do. Because why see the dream? And I'm assuming that this dude is dead. So when she comes out and she sees him, and then it turns out that he's still alive, he starts to be like, it was, and I was like, oh, is he going to die right before he can actually tell her who did it? No. He tells her the truth. Clahador, he attacked me. That's Kuro. And the fucking bitch is like, are you sure? Kaya, go back to sleep. I have no use for you. What is the point? Are you sure? Bitch, he's dying. What do you mean? What are you even talking about? I swear to God, she's like a cop talking to a woman. Just constantly like, are you certain, ma'am? That doesn't sound right. He's bleeding to death. I think he fucking knows who did this to him. What are you doing? He's wasting his last moments trying to convince you that he's not lying as he bleeds on your floor. Like, hello? Oh my God. She says, no, it's absurd. Insulting. I swear to God, eat the rich, y'all. This man died for her, basically. Like, and for what? For what? I bet he didn't even get sick leave. I bet he didn't even get fucking dental. They have dental for rams. And then he does the whole, Usopp was the only one who tried to tell us the truth and we wouldn't even hear him out. You know, the whole thing. And as he is saying this, we're getting like the flashbacks of him trying to help her and her literally smacking him in the face and then calling him pathetic. We protected a villain and drove off that brave lad who ran about with desperate resolve. I love this fucking speech. This is the shit I hope that I get to say on my deathbed. Just real dramatic. Oh my God, you guys. Deathbed shit really is prime territory for just fucking with people because, like, there's no reason that anybody would think you're lying. There's no reason. So you could just say anything. I would say some crazy shit. Man, I would love to just be like, I'm responsible for like hundreds of deaths and just be like, oh yeah, I was definitely a serial poisoner. Just weird shit that I would just say on my deathbed. Just be like, I'll just leave you with something to think about. And then it's all clearly, easily disproven. So then we see the final splatter of blood. And he like leans up against the wall, tells her all of the staff has been on leave since yesterday because she's calling for Mary, one of her other servants. And he has to be like, yeah, there's no help coming. And then he says, you have to think calmly about what you need to do now. And basically tells her, if he wants your shit, just let him have it. Because it's not worth dying over this house and your stuff, your money. Like, just take it. Or just let him take it. And I was a little bit surprised. Because I'm like, you know, she's literally... This dude tried to kill you. Now, I think that he does die, if I'm not mistaken, by the end of this. But he says, you're the only one who can stop Klahadore now. And I'm like, that's not really stopping him, though. That's just, like, trying to give him what he wants so that he'll leave you alone. And I don't know how you think that's gonna go. Because this dude just comes in, sets up shop in the house, and then he's living in this, like, mansion at the top of a hill with a bunch of people who know what he did. Or he completely trashes the place and leaves, and I guess she stays alive in that scenario. Maybe that's what he's hoping for, is that he just takes the money and runs and doesn't want anything else. Yeah, I don't know what he expects this to accomplish in the long run, because I guess I'm not really, like, I've been sort of operating under this assumption that he sets up shop here, but I'm realizing there's no reason to think that. I guess he could just take the money and then go back on the Merry Seas with his pirate band. So Kaya winds up coming out the front gate while these kids had been trying desperately to break in order to warn her about what's going on. And they're like, something really weird is going on. She's all by herself. It's really early. What is happening here? And they just like watch her walk away. And it was a weird thing to do if you take into account that these kids don't know that she's aware she's in danger. They don't know what happened inside the house and that she got told everything that's going on. So they were desperately trying to break in order to save her or warn her. And then she walks right by and they do absolutely jack shit and just like let her walk in the same direction as the guy that you know is sort of shady. It was a weird move on their part, but they are also children, so it's fine. Okay. So then we get the Meow Ben Brothers. Guys, these two dudes show up like they are just human beings. And they're not. They are not. Okay? So, they're the trump card, as they are called by Django. They come somersaulting out of the ship, and there are two. There is Siam and Butchie. Siam is very sort of Igor-ish in his stance. He has a weird hunchback thing going on, a swoop of green hair that's like Justin Bieber wishes kind of swoop. And also has like two earlocks that come outward in the style of like a curly mustache, but away from his face. Then he has this jacket. It's a short-sleeved navy blue jacket that looks like it fastens up the front with toggles of some kind. But at the neck is a magenta bow tie. Reminder, this is short-sleeved. And I don't mean like, you know, like a regular short sleeve. I mean like cap sleeve, like Snow White sleeve. Then on his hands, he's wearing gloves tipped with claws. And the gloves are this dark gray, and his hands look humongous. I'm beginning to sort of realize, I think these animators want to emphasize, or at least let us see the detail on people's hands, so they draw everyone's hands really fucking huge. But there is something about the length of these gloves that I find extremely disconcerting. It's like they're gardening gloves. Like they come just long enough down the forearm to be like, well, I wanted that extra dose of protection. But then like, why do you have short sleeves on? Just wear a full sleeve. Or just have your sleeves be part of your gloves or something. Like, this is just not practical. You haven't thought it out. And then, on his bottom, he's just wearing like teal shorts that are rolled up, regular teal shorts that like he came from Old Navy and got those. The rest of his outfit is custom. He made them everything from scratch, but he just like had those shorts already from summer camp. Like that's what that looks like to me. And of course, don't forget, he also has the little ears. So that oh, and you know what? I didn't even talk about his shoes because both he and Butchie have the same shoes on. The shoes look like something that I have seen before. They almost look like the kind of shoes that I've seen on a dojo or something where they're not quite the same because there's split completely perfectly in half, which the ones that I have seen, it's like there's a split just for the big toe. But they're basically slippers that go up to their ankles. They go up over their ankles. And they are definitely wearing like white tube socks underneath them, which I don't know why that makes it so much funnier. But just the fact that they have just some real basic shit like white tube socks under it is just so good to me. So that's Siam. And I feel like that really took a lot of time for me to explain to you. So now we're going to talk about Butchie, because Butchie is really baffling. So Butchie, first of all, got a little capri on. Not long, not short. He's aiming for a bit of modesty, maybe. He's a little self-conscious. So he's got a capri, high-waisted, natch. We're trying to be on trend here. They are vertically striped, as is his cloak. I guess he's trying to go for something slimming, because Butchie is a rotund man. He has a similar pair of gloves on to Siam, but they are lavender. Okay. And his capris are like red and black striped, but he has a belt it's more of a sash, really. That's like a mustard color. And it really like sort of reminded me of the lady pirate from the first episode sort of vibes. So here's where it gets interesting. Bare-chested. But that does not mean he doesn't have anything on top, because most of you probably just remember the piece de resistance, which is his bell. He has a giant cat bell around his neck on like a red string, which it's understandable if that's what you get sort of distracted by, because that's a real weird thing to do. It doesn't feel like if you were trying to fight that you want just something decorative that also makes noise and alerts people about where you are involved in the fight, but there you are. So he is wearing that, and I understand why it feels like that's what everyone is going to remember. However, in addition to that, this dude is wearing what I can only describe as like a black shrug. A short-sleeved black shrug, like a bolero, that you would put on with an evening dress or something. It's asymmetrical. I don't know if it's meant to be armor, maybe? Because it like covers one pectoral a little. And then on the other side, opposite, he's got like a band around his elbow, like he had an injury and he just needs a little bit of extra compression on that elbow because the joint's a little iffy. And then over all of that is a giant cape. And I have no idea what in the fuck this is. I don't know what to make of any of this outfit. Like, I want Oda to answer for his crimes. Where is he? How do you even think, what is this? It's almost like, you know what it's reminding me of now that I think about it? Something that you would wear for like BMX. You know, like the motocross. It sort of looks like that, like it's body armor-esque, but like super low tech. Not the kind of thing that would hold up to a bullet or anything, but it's meant to be something. And just in conjunction with the fact that he has nothing else on, it just looks so weird. And he also has a patch coming down over one eye that's sort of on the opposite side as the pec covering. So it's like complementary. I get what they're doing, but it's just such a weird move. So basically the whole thing with the two of them is that Siam is like crying and acts as if he can't fight and lulls Zoro into a false sense of like, hey, don't send him to fight me. I might really hurt this guy. And then all of a sudden is like, ha! I've got you! Ha! And really begins to fight. And he takes away two of Zoro's swords. Because Zoro evidently is a fucking chump and got played so easily. Zoro, buddy, get it together. What are you doing? And what he winds up doing is holding Zoro down so that Butchie can come at him and basically pound his face into the ground. And Zoro, when he sees the damage that Butchie did to just dirt is like, oh my God, he would have liquefied my body. Like, that was actually super dangerous. So, off on the sidelines, because reminder, Luffy is out. He is trapped under a cat thing. Off to the side, What's-His-Face and Nami are watching the fight and realizing that, like, Zoro isn't doing super well. And Usopp is like, oh, you know what? I'm going to use my slingshot to help out. Which, like, that's a nice thought. But unfortunately, it's taken more by Zoro as like, oh my God, you idiot. Because Zoro takes the shot on his own back and then turns and looks at Usopp and is like, do you want to die? Is that what you want? And Usopp realizes that Zoro is trying to keep these two guys from noticing those two up there because they are much more defenseless. And they are sitting ducks, essentially. So the two of them are just, it's an amazing, like, repeating illustration of them just clawing at him and him, like, fending them off with his sword. And at this point, thank God, Nami is like, well, you know what? Let me go and help with the swords. Let me go grab those and give them back. So she goes to pick the sword up, and this happens really fast, you guys. So I wasn't entirely sure what was going on here. She goes to pick up the sword. Django somehow is already there. I don't know how this happened. And he steps on the sword so that she can't pick it up, and he, like, slices her with a giant version of the medallion that he has been hypnotizing people with. I don't understand how he got there so quickly or what happened. And the whole, like, there's this weird bit where I guess that this is supposed to be, okay, that's what it is. So I was going to ask you guys, but now that I paused it and I'm looking at it, Django, after he attacks Nami, he looks up, he sees that, that Kuro is standing at the top of the hill watching this whole thing and is like, oh shit. And then we see the reflection of the situation in Kuro's glasses, which I don't know, like, just take those off. Like, at this point, what are you doing? Unless you need them, but I don't know. But the sight of the prow of the ship, like, collapsed on top of Luffy, I was having so much trouble understanding what it was that I was seeing in that reflection, but now I get it. Okay. So that goes on for a minute, is like everybody looking at each other and reassessing the situation. And then it just goes to Kuro screaming, what the hell is this? And that is the end of the episode. So, yeah, that's it. So this is super fun. I'm very curious what happens after that. The next episode will be Tuesday, April 27th, so 1 week from today. Episodes 14 and 15. So y'all will have to join me for that one. I cannot wait to see what... I want these brothers to, like, be a part of the team. They're just such a weird... One of the guys says something about how, like, yeah, you underestimated me, didn't you? And then he, like, licks his hand. It's so creepy. I hate it. It's so creepy. Oh my God. Okay. I'm going to wrap. Thank you guys again so much. Thank you, Florian, for hanging out and for commissioning this episode. I appreciate you all. Until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.